Okay, so currently this is where we are. This is our Money Matters app in progress. We are not done building it yet, but then it's really looking very good so far. So we have two sheets. We have the transaction sheets and we have the mode of payment sheets. In the transaction sheet, you have your records that are grouped by the various type. You have income, and then you have expenditure, and you have transfers. Okay, and whilst we are grouping them, we are aggregating them based on the amount that's been recorded for each form or type of record. Okay, now over here we have our mode of payments: cash, bank, mobile money. We select each of them. It gives us much more details into each mode of payment. These are all calculated fields, which we did in our previous video. This is a related column from the transactions table. Okay, now again, this is not the end goal, but it's very close to what we are looking to achieving. So once again, I'm going to show what we expect to achieve. So this is what we are hoping to achieve at the end of the day. We have one more sheet to create, which is a summary page that basically has the month we are operating in, currently January 2023, income, expenditure, and loss or gains as at the month we are operating in. We have a transaction sheet over here. Transaction page shows only transactions pertaining to the particular month in question. So you realize that we have no items indicated over here, not because we have not made any records, but because we are operating a new month and no record has been made for that particular month. Then we have modes. So these are the various modes of payments over here. This is a chart view. When you click on data here, you have your various modes of payments: cash, bank, mobile money. When you also double click on any of components of the charts, you also have a breakdown of that particular component. We have cash. This icon takes you to the next bank, and then mobile money. So we're going to try and improve our app to this point so that we can use it and enjoy the full benefits of having the app in this kind of view. Okay, so let's switch on to our Money Matters app and let's begin our work. So what we're going to do is we need to bring in another table for our summary page. Okay, so the summary page is going to be another table in our spreadsheet that's going to allow us to do our calculations. You can use an existing table, but for me, I really prefer to use a new sheet in my spreadsheet to do this summary page. So what we're going to do is to open our spreadsheet, we come to columns. You can switch to tables by clicking this icon, view table. Then over here you have what? View source. I'm going to click view source. Now view source is going to take me to the spreadsheet, which is the database for my application. Okay, so we have our transactions page. We have our mode of payment sheet. I'm going to include a new sheet. Okay, I'm going to call this summary. Okay, now this is going to be summary, and all I'm going to place over here is ID. That's it. So I create a summary page and I'm just going to include one column, at least one column in that page. However, this page is just a placeholder for my virtual columns. I'm not going to do any actual calculations or write any formulas on the spreadsheet. All I need is the table in my AppSheet, and from there I can create my virtual columns of that. So I come to my Money Matters app over here. Okay. Now, when I refresh this page, in some instances, it's going to recheck my entire spreadsheet database and find out if there are new tables. And if it's able to identify it, it's going to bring it over here. Well, unfortunately, in this instance, it didn't happen. So the other option is to click on this new table over here, Google Sheets. Once I select Google Sheets, I'm going to navigate to my spreadsheet. So app development, AppSheet with spreadsheets, money matters, and then my money matters database, and select. Okay, so I have the option to select the spreadsheet I want. In this case, summary is the only spreadsheet that isn't already in this database, so I'm going to add this as a table. So with this in place, I have a new table in addition to my already existing table. So I have transactions, mode of payment, and I have a new table which is summary. Okay, so I can view columns. I realize I have just one column, that's ID, which is currently the key. So this is what I'll say. Now with this particular table, okay, I can now do calculations and add virtual columns to this table. So I'm not going to do any calculation in the spreadsheet. All my calculations are going to be AppSheet, but the table is physically going to sit in the spreadsheet and be a placeholder in AppSheet for my virtual columns. So what is going to happen is I'm going to now add my virtual column. So click on add. Okay, it's going to ask me for the name of this virtual column. I'm going to call it header date. So the header, which is going to be a date. And basically, I'm going to try and show the month and year of the particular period I am operating in. So currently it's 27 January 2023, and that's why you saw January 23 in our completed Money Matters app. So you want to do something like that over here. You're going to use the function called text. All text needs is an input, and then you want to show the format you want that input to be displayed as. So today is going to be the function we're going to be using to generate today's date. And then I'm going to tell AppSheet that, hey, AppSheet, I want you to display today's date in this format. So month with 4 M's for full month, and then a dash, and then we have year with 2 Y's. Okay, and the reason why I'm using 2 Y's is I want to truncate to the very last 2 parts of the year. If I use 4, it's going to display the year in full. I just want the last 2. Well, this is up to you. You can choose however you want to show this. So with this done, I can just click save and done. Okay, so we have our year over here. So with this done, what I'm going to do is, for us to really appreciate what we are doing, it's best to create a view so that we can see what we are doing. So I'm going to create a new view. So AppSheet has made some changes to the UX pane. So I'm going to just click on here, create a new view. Okay, and once that is done, you have your new view over here. I'm going to call this summary for my summary page. Okay, and then I'm going to change the data source to summary. Okay, so currently I don't have anything in place, which is fine. It's because I haven't saved. So what I'm going to do is just close this and click on save. Okay, so currently I have done that and still nothing is showing. Now this is because in your spreadsheet there's no data. Okay, so it cannot show any data. It can just show only the virtual column. So I'm going to come here and I'm just going to place some record over here. Come back, refresh this, and voila, there you go. So that's our first record. We don't really need this particular information. It's just going to help us to do what we want to do. So I'll come to my summary page. I'm going to use a detail view like this. Fantastic. So what I'm going to do basically is going to set my header column, which is going to be my header dates. Wow, that looks pretty awesome. So basically you can now appreciate what we are doing because you can see it. So you have your month and your year in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to also hide this particular column because I'm not going to really use it in my app. It's just to help me get things done. So scroll down to this bottom, click on summary table. Okay, view columns. And then I'm going to click here, ID, and check the show checkbox. Hit done, and then save that. Okay, now they're going to give me a warning that by unchecking that, I can't search for this particular record or this particular column, which is fine. I don't need it in my app. Okay, so now we appreciate what we are doing. We have January 2023, which is our header. Now what we need to do is calculate for total income for the month, total expenditure for the month, and then what are the difference is going to be. So these are basically straightforward. So I'm going to add a virtual column. I'm going to call this total income. Okay, now the formula is going to be generated from obviously a select function, because we want to select just a component of our transaction records. So our data is going to come from transactions. Okay, but which column are we really interested in? We're interested in amounts. We want to determine the total amounts that have come in. We're going to say, okay, so we'll go to the transactions table. Now I'm interested in just amount. Now column, or I'm interested in records where the type is equal to income. So I'm going to do the type is equal to income. That's the first bit, right? And the second bit is that the dates or the month we are operating in is the current month. So whereas we have two conditions, first type is equal to income, and so I'm going to use the AND function. Okay, and I'm also interested in records where the dates is equal to the current date we're operating in. I'm interested in any record that is greater than last month's last dates. Okay, so it's a bit tricky, but you kind of understand it. So I'm going to say date is greater than, okay, now EO month. EO month is a function that allows us to find the last month, the last day of a particular month from a particular date period. So today, okay, and I say I want to find the last day of last month. So -1 goes 1 day behind. So I'm saying I want you to provide me records where date is greater than the very last day of last month. Now this function is what's going to provide me the last day of last month. If I do EO month today, and I do -1, it extracts the very last day of last month. Okay, so with this in place, I have my AND function to take both conditions. Okay, and then this is my select function. I have to close that. Now this function is correct. It gives us a list. Okay, but what we want to do is we want to sum that list of amounts. So like this. So we are summing this list. Okay, so let's copy this function so we don't have to duplicate it again. And I'm going to save this. Okay, done. So that's my total income. I'm going to add another virtual column. I'm going to call this total expense. Come here and I'll paste this. This time, this is going to be expenditure. Okay, I want to calculate amounts where type is equal to expenditure, and the rest are basically the same. I'm going to click on save. Let's make sure we have a data type of price, which is good. Let's just make sure the column symbol is none. Done. Okay, so I have this. I'm going to click save. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so looking good at the moment. We have total income, total expenditure, which is 00. So let's test this out. I'm going to pass a new transaction. I'm going to say income at this. This is basically a test, so I'm just going to call this test, and then I'm going to do a mode of payment of bank of 1,000 cities and save. Okay, so this is syncing in. Let's see, summary page. We have that in place. So you realize that because this record relates to this particular month in question, works. Okay, so let's try again. This time, let's set the date to a period that doesn't fall within our particular month. So let me go back and let's set December 2022. And let's say income. Add this again. Let's do this a test. Mode of payments. Let's do cash this time. Let's do amount of 100. Let's see if this is going to reflect after syncing in. It did. Okay, so that feels a little weird, but then when you actually go back to your spreadsheet, you realize that the date for our last record is 31st December 2022, 5:34:57. Okay, now let's try and compare this to just 31st December 2022. Okay, now if I do this, is equal to this, I have a false. Now that's because it's also taking consideration the time. Okay, so you realize that this is actually less than this. So I do enter, true. So Google Sheets and every spreadsheet basically, or any database is going to tell you that just having the dates, Excel or the spreadsheet or database recognizes this as that particular date at 12 midnight. Okay, now this is not 12 midnight, this is 5:34, so that's greater than 12 midnight. So we have to really adjust the formula a little to capture every record after that particular day till the next day. So let's go back and adjust the formula. This is actually a very good example. Make sure we cover everything. So come back to total. I'm going to say, okay, so date, it's not enough for date to just be greater than this. Okay, it should be greater than the last day plus, so let me just make sure I get it right. So the last day plus 0.99. 0.99 is going to cover all the time for a full day. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this just to make things easy for myself. Hit done. Come to total expense just to make sure everything is sweet, plus 0.99. That's before a full day. Click this to save. Done and save. So with this done, we should have a total income of just 1,000 and not 1,100. I hope that's clear. Okay, so moving on. So we have total income, we have total expense. What we're going to do is create our last virtual column called balance. Okay, which is basically going to be a direct total income minus our total expense. I'm going to click on this, save, done, save. Okay, so my balance is 1,000. Okay, so we're kind of getting there. So we have total income, total expense, we have balance. Now what I'm going to do is I want to have my figures on the right hand side with my labels on the left hand side. So I'm going to edit the view. So I'm going to click here, view, scroll down. Okay, scroll down. Under display mode, I want a side by side. Yes, that looks nice, that looks neat. Okay, so I have total income, total expense, and I have balance. What I want to do is if my balance is less than 0, I want the label to show loss, and if it's more than 0, I want it to show as gains, and if it's just 0, it should just show as balance. Okay, so we're going to come back to the table summary, view columns, balance. Okay, under display, we have the display name. We're going to use an if statement. So if, okay, so balance is less than 0, I want you to show a name of loss. Okay, if balance is greater than 0. I want to show the name gain. Otherwise, I want you to just keep the name balance. Okay, otherwise just keep the name balance. That works for me. So I have an if statement which is saying if this is less than 0, false, bring a comma here. If this is greater than 0, gain, otherwise I want balance. So once that is in place, it is verified by AppSheet. I can hit save, hit done, and save. Great. So we realize we have gain of 1,000. If I pass an expenditure of 1,000, expenditure, category others. Again, this is just a test. So test run. Mode of payment is going to be coming from bank. And then I'm going to pass 1,000. And I'm going to save. Okay. So I expect once this sinks in to have a total expenditure of 1,000, and they should go back to balance. Fantastic. So you realize everything is working perfectly. So at least for the summary page, we're almost through. Let's come back to the transactions page. So currently, you realize we have all records showing, which is not bad. Okay, but we're going to create just records for this particular month. Okay, so I'm going to come to UX. Currently, these are transactions. And then you realize the position is middle. I don't want to delete this particular view. It's good to have all your transactions. But I'm going to hide it and I'm going to put this in the menu. So click on menu. Okay, so it's going to leave the tab over here, and when you come to menu, you have transactions. So I'm going to call this all transactions. Okay, so that at least you have all your transactions in case you need to go back in time and check. Okay, so we have just summary and mode of payments over here. I'm going to create a new view. We can also duplicate a view. So I'm going to copy this. So copy. Okay, this is just going to be transactions for the month. So transactions. It's also a table view. I'll bring it back. Middle. So I have it here, but I also have my all transactions over here. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to show only records pertaining to this particular month in question, right? The month we're operating in. So we're going to use what we call a slicer. Okay, now you can click here to use slice to filter your data. Okay, or you can actually go to data and click slices. So we're going to create a new slice. Okay, so create a new slice over here. Okay, so this is our new slice. Okay, so what we're going to do is basically give this a name that says transactions for current month, right? Or you can just call it current month transactions, both works. Your source table is transactions, so we are good. But if this wasn't selected, you need to select it over here. Okay, you have this icon over here. Where did it go? Okay, that icon to show you the particular table you selected. So transactions, when I click on this, it will take me to the transactions table. Okay, but over here, this is the most important thing. This is where you put in your logic statement, your filter criteria, however you want to call it. Is that expression that filters your table to only the records you're interested in. So over here, all I'm going to say is, so I have to click on create new custom expression because I don't want to use words to describe what I want to do. I want to type a formula. So I'm going to say date. Okay, it's greater than the same formula we used the last time. So EO month, today, right, -1. Now this will give us all dates greater than the last day of last month. That's midnight. So in case data was recorded on within that day, it's still going to pop up. So let's just add +099 to cover up the entire day as well. So it's going to start exactly midnight of this current month. So once we have that in place, I'm going to create save. Okay. Now we can decide to select certain columns we want to see in our new table we've created, our filter table. We can say, okay, we don't want to see the type, so I can just take this out. Once I do that, this particular option button arrives where you can add the type back again. So add, I want to see that. So okay, so with this in place, we can also decide what can happen to this particular table, whether updates can be made to it, whether you can add new records, you can delete, or it's just for viewing. You can just read and see what's in the table. So with this in place, once everything is done, I can just save this. Okay, so I'm going to back to my UX. Okay, so UX over here. Then I'm going to say data for my transactions table is now coming from transactions current. Okay, so you realize that now I have only records pertaining to this particular month, right? Okay, now let's just work on this a little. So what I'm going to do is, first I'm going to group by type. Okay, we have income, we have expenditure. I don't want to see all the columns, so column order. So I have date, I have category, I have details, and then I have amount, right? Fantastic. I can also group aggregate by the amount, so sum amount, transactions. Okay, so I have this in place, which is fine. Great. So basically we have something in place. The last thing we're going to do is we're also going to create a UX for our mode of payments view. Okay, so currently our mode of payment view is a deck view. So when you click on view, you see deck view. You can also use a chart view. So over here we have charts. Okay, and then by default it's going to select the histogram, but you can change the chart type. So I'm going to change this to donut charts. Okay, and I'm going to select the columns. So add columns. I'm going to select current balance. Okay, so once we select the current balance as the column we're going to chart, what we're going to do is we're going to set the colors for your various type of mode of payment. Okay, so in an order you have it over here. So you have cash, you have bank, and you have mode of payment. So the first color, which is going to be cash, is going to be blue. So this is the main theme. I want this, which is that. Second one is going to be bank, which is going to be green, like this. And the third one is going to be mode of payment, which is going to be this shade of green. Okay, something like that. So once you select, you can add more based on the number of fields you have over here. So currently I have just 3, and that's why I have only 3 color options selected. So you can do more. You can change the label from value to the key. You can do it to a percentage. So if I do a percentage, it's going to give me a percentage of the total amount for mode of payment. I can use value, which was what I was using initially. You can decide to show the legend or not show. So if I uncheck this, I don't show the mode of payment unless you hover around it before you see which one, which is not intuitive enough for me. So I'm going to show this. Okay, so that's that. So over here you see we have this action button called data. It's generated by AppSheet. When you click on it, it just gives you the data running behind that particular chart. Okay, now when you double click on any part of this donut chart, it's going to take you to our view we created. So your type, current balance, start balance, total inflows and outflows, which is very familiar to all of us. Okay, so we have our summary page now. We have our transactions, we have our mode of payment. So all we need to do now is to work on the colors and then do a few things about our action buttons, and then we are good to go. Okay, so first let's change the theme to our dark theme. So under UX we have brand. Okay, So under brand, you have light theme and dark theme. So I'm currently using a dark theme for the other app. So over here you have this transaction, mode of payment, right? You can also change your colors. Okay, so you can set this to a darker shade of blue. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, great. So now our app is picking up form, it's looking neat. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to also format our summary page. Okay, so now when you go back to our app, you realize that we have this blue banner at the top and at the bottom. Okay, so that is possible over here in AppSheet. So when you scroll down, aside changing the app logo, so here you can change your app logo, use something different. Your launch image, so basically your launch image is this. As I sync the app, what I see over here, I can change it to something much more different. So let's say I use this. So when I click on save, okay, you realize that this becomes my launch image. Okay, my background, this is what I'm currently using for the preview app. So if I save this, you see that becomes my background, right? So that's the background over there, neat looking. Okay, so now we have show view name in the header. So if I check this, I have summary showing over here. If you want that, it's cool. If you want your logo to show in your header, you have it over there. Okay, I can hide the menu button and the search button by using this. But what I'm interested in is this particular aspect of my brand. Okay, so if I select colored, I have this over there, the banners. If I select just this, I have this. So I'm going to select colored. Okay, so I look as much as possible to the initial one. So basically we are just picking up and making the app look as much as possible as the other one. Now what we want to do is, you realize that in the summary view, income is highlighted as green, expenditure is highlighted as red, and then it's underlined. So how do we do this in AppSheet? Okay, so back in our Money Matters app, the next bit we're going to look at is format rules. Okay, so format rules helps you to format certain fields, certain components of your app, basically the fields, okay, based on a condition or a format rule. So click new format rule, create a new one. Okay, I'm going to call this income. I'm going to do it as a green. Okay, this is going to come from the summary page. Okay, basically there's no condition that has to be met before it's green. It's always going to be green. So I'm going to select total income, and then text color is going to be green. I can type green here, and I have that. Okay, so you realize the total income is now green. I'm going to copy this and do same for expenditure. Right, summary page, this time total expense. Okay, and that is going to be red. Right, aside that, I'm going to underline this. So come here and underline. That's it. Okay, so with this done, I'm good to go. I have this and this in place. I'm going to save this. Okay, so by now you must have noticed that we have certain action buttons over here that should really not be here. So edit here, and this opens you up to edit the summary page. This is going to delete the summary page, right? So we can actually hide some of these action buttons, and we can also create the ones we want and hide the ones we do not need. Okay, so for example, add over here shouldn't be here, it's not appropriate. So I'm going to come to behavior. Under behavior we have actions. I'm currently in the summary page, so I'm going to go to summary. So this transaction, this is summary. So currently summary page has an add, a delete, and an edit. Okay, so currently the add is not showing because we are not in the form view or a table view. Add doesn't show in a detail view. Okay, so I'm going to click on first delete. Under appearance, I'm going to select do not display. So you realize that the delete icon is no more there. Okay, and then edit as well. Going to appearance, and I'm going to say do not display. Okay, and the edit button is gone. So you realize that now this looks like a very simple summary page, neat looking. Okay, so I'm going to do the same for mode of payment. I do not want the add button to show over there. So I'm going to mode of payment, and I'll say appearance, do not display. Okay, so that doesn't show over there. Okay, so I'm going to save this. Fantastic. So we have a summary page, we have a transaction page, and we have a mode of payment page. Brilliant. Okay, so let's look at what we had left with. So back here we have summary, transactions, mode of payments. Okay, actually the action button was there, but that's fine, we can bring it back. The last thing we want to do is to create an action button that switches between the calendar view and the table view. Okay, so what we want to do is, currently I have my table view, but I also want to have a calendar view that I can switch to, and I can switch back to my table view. Okay, so first let's create the calendar view. So new view, I'm going to call this, first let me create this. So create a new view. Okay, scroll down, where are you? New view. Okay, I'm going to call this transactions, calendar view. Okay, and then I'm going to set this to calendar there. Okay, so you have something basically like this. Okay, now the data is going to come from specific data with transaction current, which is this, like this, right? Okay, so that's it. So what's start date? So start date is going to be date. I don't necessarily have to do a start time, and I don't have an end date, it's just the start date. So with this in place, let me just point this out. The detail view is month. I can use a week detail view. So this is going to show by week or by day, but currently I want month. I'm going to click on save. Okay, so now I realize that we have our record showing. So I'm going to click on this. I have two records showing. Yeah, there you have it. Okay, so what we're going to do is, we're not done. We're just going to set the description to the text to display for the event. I'm going to set this to details. Let me set this to details. And then I'm going to set the color based on type. Okay, so what this means is going to have different color codes for income and then different color codes for expenditure. So when I select today's date, so you realize that income is red and then expenditure is orange. As of now, there's no way to actually set the color codes as far as I know, but then I'm hoping very soon it will be possible to actually change the color codes for a particular record. Okay, so with this in place, we have our calendar view for our current transactions for the month. Okay, so what we're going to do is to make it possible for us to switch between our calendar view and our transaction view by a click of a button. So like we have in our preview app, the completed Money Matters app, you'll notice that we have this icon, the calendar icon. Okay, so while I'm in the transactions page, when I click the calendar icon, I switch to the calendar view, and over here I have a table icon or a list icon. When I click on that, I switch back to the transactions page. So we want to create this navigation ability in our Money Matters app. Now, to be able to do this, we need to go to a section or another category of our app editor called the behavior section. Okay, so the behavior section is used to create actions. Actions are buttons we click in AppSheet that allows the app to behave in a certain way. Okay, so this is an action button, and then to create an action button, you start by clicking on this new action. Okay, then you can try and describe what you want to do, but then I prefer to just create it. So create a new action. Okay, so where's our action? Okay, here it is. So new action. Okay, so we are going to give this a name. We're going to call this we can call it maybe go to calendar, right? Where do we want this particular action button to sit? So this action button is supposed to sit in the transaction table. Okay, so we have it over here, transaction table. Now, what do you want the action to do when clicked? What do you want it to do? So do this, the type of action to be performed. When I click this, I have a host of actions I can perform from here. So we have, you can copy this rule and edit it. You can edit this rule. You can export this view to a CSV file. This is what, not a rule level action. Go to another AppSheet app. Go to another view within this app. Import this CSV file import a CSV file for this view. Okay, so if you want to import the view as a CSV file, you can create an action button with this action. Open a form to add a new rule to this table. You say add a new rule to another table using the values from this rule. Delete this, execute an action on a set of rules, set values of a column in this table, go to a website, open a file, start a phone call, start a text, start an email, and execute a group of actions. Okay, so these are basically all the actions you can do in AppSheet. And to be frank, I've been using AppSheet for a while and I found all these actions to be quite extensive. What you need to do, or whatever you want to do in AppSheet, you can use these various actions to do them. You can combine a few of them to even create much more powerful actions in AppSheet. So for this particular app, what we want to do is to go to another view within this app. So I select that. Once you select this, it's going to ask for the app link target. The app link target is the link that is going to take you to whichever view you want to go to. Okay, now you can use the formula link to view. So when you click here, you can type your formula link to view and provide the name of your view. Okay, but then I'm going to show you a much easier way to come up with the target link. So I'm going to close this. Now I'm going to come to my UX and look for the view in question. So transaction calendar. Now every view has its link at the documentation. Sorry, I mean the behavior. Okay, so when you come to behavior, over here you have what? App link. So you can use this. So link to view, that's what I was talking about. Or you can use this HTTPS link. Okay, so I'm going to just copy this link to view, which is basically a function in AppSheet. So just copy this. Okay, come back to behavior. Under transactions, I come back and then I paste this in my target link. So basically it says link to view transactions calendar. I want to go to the transactions calendar. I'm going to click on save. Okay, appearance. So here I have the option to indicate how I want this to appear. So I'm going to choose a calendar icon. Something nice and simple. How about this one? Okay. Okay. So far we have this in place. Select a calendar. Let me save this. Let's see how it looks. Okay, once this is saved, okay, now when I select any transaction record, you see that it's showing in the details of the record. But that's not what I want. What I want is for it to show outside over here. So we have this prominence, okay? So you can display as primary, you can display prominently, you can display inline, or do not display. So I'm going to display as primary. When I display as primary, you see the icon shows outside instead of within the records. Okay, so with that done, I think I'm good to go. So now when I come to transactions, you see I have it over here. When I click this, I come here. Now the issue is, once I'm here, I don't want this icon to show again. Okay, but let's leave that for now. I'll come back and address that. So we have this in place. Now we can also copy this and create the next icon we want to create, which is to switch back to our table view. So I'm going to click on copy. I'm going to call this go to table, or go to transactions table. Okay, now this is the same formula. I'm just going to provide the view's name. In this case, go to just the name of the view is transactions, right? Transactions, yes. Okay, I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to change the appearance to a list. No, I want something. Yes, something like this is okay. Okay, so what happens is, when I'm in the transactions page and I click this, I come to my calendar page. When I'm in the calendar page and I click this, hold on, let me save this. So when I click this, I come back to my transactions table page. Now what I want to do is, when I'm in the transactions table page, I do not want to see the action button that brings me to this exact same page, right? Which will be redundant. When I click this, I find myself in the same thing. I want to see only the calendar icon or the calendar action button. When I go to the calendar view, I do not want to see the calendar icon. I only want to see the table icon. So how do we do this? So you go to your action button under behavior. Okay, this currently is true. That means it's always going to show. The condition for it to show is always true, but we can actually put a simple formula here. The formula we're going to be using, or the function we're going to be using, is context. Now all context needs is the requirement for the context in question. So I'm going to say, okay, context view type. Okay, so context view type is going to indicate what kind of view the action button finds itself at the moment. Okay, so I will say that context view type is not equal to calendar. So basically I'm saying that show this action button when the view type is not equal to calendar, right? So this is for the calendar action button. So as you can see, we're going to calendar. That's the calendar action button. We don't want it to show when we are in the calendar view type. So let me save this and let's see how it works. Okay, so when I click this, fantastic. So you see, once I got into the calendar view type, that action button doesn't show. So I have only the one that takes me back to the table. When I click this, I come back to the table. So I need to take off this table view when I'm in the table view type. So I'm going to behavior again. Come here, delete this and paste what I just did. But this time I'm going to indicate that the view type I don't want to show is table. Save this, close this, and I'm going to click save. Okay, so here now when I click calendar, I have the table icon. When I click the table icon, I'm back in the calendar view. Okay, so I think on that note, let me check and see. So more money in bank, click this, cash, more money, everything is looking good. Okay, so one of the last things we're going to do is when you switch to our completed Money Matters app, okay, you notice that when I select a particular view, okay, I have the summary at the top there. So I have current balance, start balance, total inflows, total outflows, and I have all cash receipts and all cash payments. Okay, so these are actually the related transactions by the various mode of payment. I'm just going to change the display name to show cash receipts and cash payments. That's all. So let's do that in this. So once we are here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to the table in question. So I'm going to scroll down and click on MOP. This takes me to the table running this view. Click on view. Okay, so once I'm here, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here. The related transactions, I'm going to change the name. Okay, so I'll come to display, and a display, I'm going to provide a display name. Now the display name is going to be the name of the mode of payment in question, okay, combined with receipts. So the type, which is a type, and then what? Receipts. So I'm going to say, so under Data Explorer, you can also have the options to select your various columns. So I'm going to just come here and click and set to type. Okay, ampersand this with space. So in this case, it's going to read as cash receipts for cash, bank receipts for bank, and then mobile money receipts for mobile money. So I'm going to click on save. Done. I'll come to my related transaction by mode of payment. Display. So display name this time is going to be type. Ampersand, and then what? Payments. Okay, I'm going to hit save. Done. Okay, now let's save this. Okay, so now you see in mobile money, we have what? Mobile money with receipts. And this is the only one we are seeing. But then more money payment is not showing. So now for me, whenever I'm building my app and then this happens, the first thing I need to do is to go to the UX and determine if I've placed a column order on the UX. Normally when your view is not showing, that's most likely the reason why. So I'll scroll down here, click on MOP detail, takes me here, and then you see what I have a column order. So I'm just going to add the next one, which is what mode of payment by related transaction by mode of payment. And then when you scroll down, you have cash receipts. Okay, you see, very simple. Last thing is I'm going to make the cash type or the mode of payment type the header. So header columns, I'm going to click this and make this type. Very simple. So with that done, I guess we can call it a wrap. Bank, and then we have mobile money. Fantastic. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to click save. So currently we have our summary page, we have our transactions, we have our mode of payments over here. Also in the menu section, we have all transactions, we have transaction calendar. Now, if you do not want your transaction calendar to show in the menus page, frankly, I don't like it. Once I have an icon, but I don't need it showing over there. What you need to do is come to the UX running that view. Okay, and that position, you can make it a ref. So once I make it a ref, it doesn't show in the calendar. That means it's just on the background. Only an action button can take me to that particular view. So when I click this calendar, I come here. When I click this, I come back. Okay, so before I bring this series to an end, I'd like to mention once again that to get access to your app, all you need to do is to go to Play Store or whatever platform you download your apps from, and then download AppSheet. Once you download AppSheet, you have access to all the apps you've created and all the apps that have been shared with you. So when you download AppSheet, Once you open it, what you have access to is something like this: shared with me. In the menu section, you have these options: recent, shared with me, and owned by me. If no app has been shared with you, under the shared with me section, it will be blank. If you created an app under owned by me, you have okay. So I hope you found this series very useful, and then this has been a very good introduction to AppSheet. I hope you're going to take the learning you've learned in creating your own personal finance app and go on to build apps that make a great impact. Thank you for joining me in this series. If you have any ideas on the apps you want to see me build in this channel, please feel free to drop them in the comments. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you in my next series.